When we struggle with self-value, we are in a space that is very shaky. If you're new here, my name is Michelle Pava. I'm a finance therapist, and I also work with trauma, anxiety, and stress. Today, we're just going to have a gentle conversation about identity and identifying with the negative things that were said to you, implied about you, or acted out towards you. Most of this would have happened in childhood. So in childhood, in your younger years, if you were made to feel like you were wrong, a mistake, a nuisance, somehow flawed, bothersome, unattractive, not intelligent, unworthy, the list goes on. If you were taken advantage of, if you were neglected, if you were abused, at some point, any or all of these especially would have created some identification that you felt a certain way. In fact, if anything that I just said resonated at all with you, then you identify in some part of yourself as that facet. So if I said, for instance, that you felt like you were a mistake, then there's some facet of you, if you resonated with that at all, like, yes, I did feel like that when I was little. Well, when you were little, that inner child is still within you. You didn't suddenly turn 6 years old and everything before you just vanished. We layer ourselves. We don't grow out of ourselves. We're not a snake that sheds skin. We rejuvenate all of the time. But our mind is dictating how we think, feel, behave, treat ourselves, and we hear the script of our childhood in everything that we do and say. And that script is with us all of the time. We can't turn it off, but we can begin to turn it down and we can rewrite it. And so anything that I said that you identify with is part of your identity. Now, there's a lot of your identity, right? There's a lot of facets to you. But the facets that are negative are damaging. We don't get to walk around and say, oh, I had a tough childhood, but everyone has. It's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. And no, not everyone has. We all have perceptions and we all have had rough times. We've all had to overcome something, but not everybody was abused. Not everyone was neglected. Not everyone was made to feel like a mistake or unworthy or taken advantage of. Not everyone had their innocence taken away. Not everyone lived in fear or shame. And so I want you to take this moment and I want you to make peace with the fact that you need to be aware of that identity. Make peace with the fact that it's okay. You don't have to push it away. Because every time we push something away, we get resistance, right? That's what pushing something does. It gives some resistance. And so if we push it away, it either goes too far away from us that we are disconnected from it, or we push it away and it tries to push back, and we've got that resistance. So we're either in a state of resisting or disconnecting rather than just holding on to it and keeping it near. And in that space where we can make peace with this feeling, with the behaviors. And I'm not saying that you have to forgive and make peace with the people that hurt you. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. And don't let anyone, any entity, or any group make you feel that you're not good enough because you're not doing what they prescribe. You don't have to do anything. You can navigate in your own orbit, and that's okay. You probably weren't taught that if anything that I have said before resonated with you. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have a mind of your own. It's okay to hold on to anger if you need to. It's okay to hold on to whatever emotion that you need. Because when we have an identity, like, for instance, if you feel that you're a mistake and therefore you are constantly concerned about being friendly with people, people accepting you, whatever, then you're going to have certain coping strategies that help you navigate in the world. And so you can't just say, oh, I'm not going to have this anymore, and boom, there go the coping strategies. Doesn't work that way. What's in the place of the coping strategies? Nothing. You have to fill yourself up with the opposite of what you think you are. Any negative thought you have about yourself at any moment has somehow come from someone else. Now, you might have taken some of those negative moments and ran with it, but you would not have thought poorly of yourself, ever, if it any way was shaped that you were completely flawless. And you are flawless. Just because we make mistakes doesn't mean we're not perfect. We can have flaws and still be flawless. And for some people, that's going to be the hardest thing to understand. And if what I just said was the hardest thing that I've said so far that you could understand, then you need to work on your identity. You need to take whatever you feel is a coping strategy and turn it into something positive. So maybe instead of being a people pleaser, you instead dedicate a certain amount of time and energy to a nonprofit and then learn boundaries. There are so many ways to work on yourself and your self-value. And a lot of what I talk about is a money story and your self-value. And it's because for years, no matter what the situation, I saw people struggling in different situations, trauma, marriages. And ultimately, there was an element of finance. Finance where they couldn't leave the situation they were in or continue with help or get a new job or buy their child something that they needed to buy them. And it didn't matter how many outreach hours I gave, it felt like it wasn't enough for all of the people that need it. And so that's why I started using social networking and just focused on my investments and just gave whatever I could, and I still continue to give whatever I can because there are people that need it. Because there's a lot of stories out there, a lot of identities that don't belong to the people that they're attached to. Because people struggle with seeing the truth under their trauma. There's so much beauty under each and every person. And some people don't see it, they don't feel it, and worse, they don't believe it. If you want to stay connected, go to my website, thefinanceTherapist.com, connect on my email list. I do free support groups. I give a free newsletter every week. And there's just lots of different insights and offers and updates. Your identity needs to be who you really are. Who were you before the negativity was thrown at you? And if you don't know who that person is, it's time to find out.